Good evening. Heartiest greetings to all the wonderful followers and admirers of this program. I'm really indebted for all the esteemed uh, spectators of this program who have glued again into this 44th Shitalath Conversation show. I welcome you all into the 44th Shitalath Conversation, historic conversation. Uh, it gives a great feeling to meet again on Sundays. We are at the end of this chilling January, and in a place like northern India, we were just gone through this incessant rain, and today, for a small part of the day, the sun came in, so it was a bit of brightness came in. So I am very lover of sun. I don't know, maybe previous lives I was somewhere born in Africa or so. I mean, I like rain, but for a small period of time, a romanticizing period of time. Having said so, today this is a, we are, this is an enchanting, endeavor. Together we have all embarked to unravel these shades and contours of the bygone days. uh, those have meandered into the history of this great land of Kashmir, the wonderful place, the cradle of Indian civilization, cradle and the crown of Indian civilization.
Um,
So this is, I think, we have been till now we have been able to uh, go through many wonderful conversations of beautiful anecdotes, especially about the culture, about the art, about the literature, about the music, about the streets, about the towns, about the hamlets, about the places of spirituality, and about the passages of time, passage of evolution of time, ancient glory, contemporary glory, and all the flora and fauna, peaks, colors, all the good things in the valley. So that makes this program very romanticizing one. So we always peep to back for getting some good energy, good respite, and somewhere down the line create a great bone homie. Once again, I am very grateful to all of you gluing into this 44th session, and I think being part of this wonderful journey, wonderful odyssey, a call of the roots. We connect to our roots. As we have already said many a times, I have already said that time immemorially, Kashmir, the cradle of Indian civilization, has always, created great personalities, wonderful personalities, geniuses, with great versatilities, great talents, who have become the world icons, who have traveled across the world, and these all wonderful personalities have worked in different diversified fields, be it the science, yogic science, be it the mathematics, be it the medicine, or be it the spiritual sciences, aesthetics, architecture. They have traveled and across the globe, in the south, in the Southeast Asia, far, to the Caspian Sea, to the Japan and other places. So Kashmir has a very predominant role. We have a genetics which is very brilliant, and in the times gone by, the previous century, we have seen the wonderful people, wonderful personalities who have the same genetic, same background, same blood. We have the excelled personalities who have become very eminent ones due to their wonderful contribution to the country and the humanity, through their wonderful talents, maybe be it in literature, be it in engineering, be it in diplomacy, be it in politics, be it in architecture, be it in any aspect, any wonderful aspect of life. They have made this nation proud. Today, this 44th Shitalath conversation is very significant one. I mean, it's marked with the historic significance, because we are going to walk through the anecdotes, the beautiful anecdotes about the great son of the soil, great son of India, great native of Kashmir, one of the multifaceted phenomenon, one of the brilliant strategists, a formidable diplomat, a formidable politician, and statesman, Sri D.P. Dhar. Who doesn't know his name, his contribution for the country and the state and the people? And we are very fortunate to have today with us, one of the a man who knows him very closely, who has been very closely associated with him, who has been his son, Sri, very eminent and a public figure, an eminent personality, Sri Vijay Darji. I hope his narratives are certainly going to, throw light, give us a glimpse, a very close glimpse about Deepidar's life, inner life, his family life, as well as his public life. So it's a great opportunity to be with him. Deepidar, as we know, in a short summary, I will say that he was very known to be very close to Indira Gandhi, and he was the man who is known to be the great architect of this Indian intervention in Bangladesh, when the Pakistanis tried to infest Bangladeshis and they ran away, and then and that in that situation, that intricate situation, it was DP's plan. He was the master strategist who planned this entire, and ultimately Bangladesh became liberated. And he was probably the youngest, the youngest personality who became the state home minister, state home secretary, and then also the deputy home minister in, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah's stewardship in his cabinet when he was head of the state. And it is also said that he was at a very young age. He went to the Nations, United Nations in the year 49, and then he has also addressed as a youngest delegate to the United Nations Assembly in 1952. And he was also picked up as a one of the illustrious diplomat of Moscow, of USSR, then USSR, by Mrs. Gandhi. And his role is very illustrious, and people know about the whole policy between Russia and India since then has gone a very, very phenomenal change. Until now, those policies are in vogue. Russia is one of our best friend in the neighborhood. And there are many things. And he was at the youngest. He had such a charisma that at such a young age in the Lucknow University, when he was doing his law, he became the students' president. His aura, his charisma, his leadership qualities, and they invited Jawaharlal Nehru, who interacted and probably addressed to the students over there. He was also instrument into the Indo-Soviet friendship and cooperation. In that arena, he has worked a lot. And then probably he was the Minister of Planning, one of the very, 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 very important minister in the government of India, Minister of Planning and a member of Parliament. He has remained also the state minister at the varied portfolios, and in his time, there are many, many things which have happened into the state and the national politics. It was a very turmoilish time. It was a transition period of transition, and the personalities like have contributed a lot in this direction. Unfortunately, we lost DP Saab at a very, very young age, at the age of 57. But I don't know. Had he been there, things would have been much, much in a different shape. This is what we perceive, because his contribution to the nation and the state is immense. It is DP's. I think his legacy is certainly going to, go around. The generations of politicians, diplomats, and strategists, they will follow DP Saab, and general public will follow DP Saab. His genius, this iconic personality which happened to our country. So we it is very difficult to define DP Saab, because you need a multi-pronged, kind of a research, multi-pronged kind of a thesis to understand his whole temperament, his whole genius, his strategic mind, his diplomatic genius, his brilliance, and his charisma, his love for the nation, his humanism, his statesmanship. So today we are very fortunate that we have with us the flesh and blood son of DP Saab, Sri Vijay Darji. He's an eminent personality, a very well-known personality, as an educationist, and a business tycoon. and he has been there on this scene. Probably he has also served. I don't know. I mean, he will just elaborate about it. He has also served in during the Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's time with him. And I think today is a great. This is a great opportunity for all of us. To have to understand, to probably, I mean, just visit and peep into DP Dar Saab's anecdotes about his personal life, his public life, and other unknown parameters, unknown shades of his personality. So let's all, I mean, gather together and I mean, just with great reverence and affection, welcome Vijay Darji into our studio.
Thank you,
Darsab, you are
Dilji.
welcome to the 44th Sheetalnath Conversation Show. It's a great pleasure to have you in our show.
Thank you very much, and namaskar to everybody. Now, it's very difficult to talk about a personality that you have mentioned, even though he's my father. But I'm reminded of an anecdote by the Prime
Your
Minister, President of
your
Bangladesh.
sound is slightly. I think, yeah.
Yeah, is it better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Is it
And
better?
before, yes, yes. Thank you very much that you are here with us. And you wanted to say something before that. I'll ask the question. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say that I'm reminded of an anecdote when Bangladesh president presented an award for him. He said,
Oh,
even
that was
though
great.
we are remembering him late as today, but we want posterity to remember what he has done for his country and our country.
That's so great.
That's
And
it.
you received it posthumously on his
Yeah, I
behalf.
did. I did. I did.
It was
I
in
did.
it was in 2012 probably.
2012. That's right.
It was a great. I felt so happy when DP Saab was honored for this his role into this Bangladesh liberation, and Bangladesh government recognized it. And we too had a memorial hall at Moscow, DP Memorial Hall, and
Yes.
unfortunately
Yes.
we don't have any memorial of DP Saab probably. And we'll come through this discussion through and through. First of all, to begin with, I mean, it is very. I mean, you are son of such a great icon, and he was for the country. His contribution is immense, and his public facet, his personal life, his brilliance of his brain, his strategies, all these things are very difficult to. I mean, it's like a swimming around in a very large sea. But then again, we'll try to come down to those major parameters and elements through your because you are the first hand witness of DP Saab being his son. But before that, I mean, as per the practice in vogue in our program, I would like to ask about this DP Saab. How was his? How was his life in his infancy? Because you will be telling about those stories which you have heard and those stories which you have seen. So both the stories clubbed together will formulate a great anecdote about how he was in his youth when he was born. What was the family background? What was the social setup? And how was his personality coming up? Can you tell us? We are all interested about this part of the DP Saab story.
Well, he lived a very luxurious youth, younger days, and even during his lifetime, I think he lived extremely well. We lived in Safakadal. He went to Ranteng
Okay.
School, which is downtown, which I also had the privilege of going to. He had, there were four great Dars living together. There was Sri Shrikant Dar, that's my grandfather. Then there was Pandit Narkak Dar, who was father of Girjadar, Dr. Girjadar. Then there was Pandit Balkak Dar, who was quite prosperous those days. And then we had Sham Sundar Lal Dar. So as children, we would be told that Sham Sundar Lal Dar's house is bigger than the Maharaja's palace, which later
Oh,
on, when we saw Maharaja's palace, I must say that was definitely bigger. But anyway, that is where he started his life. And I still remember my ancestral house. We had paper mache ceilings. We had kutumbandi, which was carved, and we had a
Okay.
diwan am and a diwan khas. And diwan khas had a library, and
Okay.
that is where I would find my father mostly when I was young. And I remember him telling me at that time, he said, to Urdu Zurur Padna. But he was
Okay.
very well versed in Urdu and Persian. Persian was the language my grandmother was also very good at. But having
Grandmother.
said that, he also became a leftist and he um,
Socialist.
more a socialist than anything else. So all his life, he never did any business. He did only one business in his lifetime. That was setting up a hotel in partnership with somebody in Pahalgam. But at the end
Okay.
of the year, when they started working out the profit and loss, they found that Mr. DP Dar had entertained more people than what the profit was. And finally, he had to give up his partnership and said, "Thank you very much, I can't do this." So that is part of his younger days. Then he was in college in Srinagar. He also became the president of the Students'
Yeah,
Union
yeah.
in
I'm
Srinagar.
coming to that. Yeah.
And in 1940, he went to Lucknow. And in Lucknow, he was, by his charm and by his wit and by his knowledge, he was selected as the president of the Lucknow University um, Students' Union, which at that time was very prestigious. And then he invited Pandit Jawaharlal. Pandit Jawaharlal was so impressed with him that he became a protege of Pandit Jawaharlal for the rest of Jawaharlal's time
They
life.
had the
And of course,
communication. They had the
yes, they had,
communication all along their
yes,
lives, right from the,
all
yeah.
along. And then, of course, Indira Gandhi was more or less a family at that time, which then the relationship continued. And as you rightly mentioned, it continued till my working with Rajiv Gandhi.
Okay.
But in Lucknow University, he also, they got in touch with, then it was called the study group. And this
Okay.
study group had a lot to do with Kashmir. There were great poets like Kafi Azmi, then his wife, and then Sardar Jafri, Emma Hussain. All these people used to visit Kashmir. And Kashmir had become this focal point, in a way, for the freedom struggle, not only for the Kashmiris, but it became a known struggle for rest of the country as well, which is not much written about. We've not heard about much about it. But if you look at it, DP Saab, at a very young age, got into politics, which was later on. I mean, he came back from Lucknow, I think, in 1943. And there's a very nice anecdote which Sheikh Abdullah and his Begum told me about him after he passed away as to how he joined the National Conference. Sheikh Saab said that he was collecting money for National Conference, and people were giving him 4 annas, 8 annas, 1 rupee, and suddenly somebody gave him a 5 rupee note.
Okay.
So he asked him, he said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm TP Dar, I'm Sri Kandar's son." He said, "Oh, you're from the Dar family?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Please wait." And Sheikh Saab took him home. And at home, he told Begum Saab, he said, Today the scion of the Dar family has joined us. It's a great thing to happen." So he's sitting downstairs. "Please give him a cup of tea." So Begum Saab then narrated further, saying that when I went down, there was a worker wrapped up in a loi. And I asked him, I said, "Would you like to have tea or kahwa?" She said, "I have not forgotten the voice that came out of that loi." He said, "Madam, I would like a cup of kahwa. Thank you." And that is where his career as politician started. And it started with a 5 rupee note. As he often used to say, it was 5 rupees and after, because that he didn't look back.
And then
Then,
he became, he was the youngest person who became the home secretary, and then the Minister for
Yeah,
Deputy
before
Minister
that, they
for Health.
formed the first, he also formed the first Communist Party in Kashmir, which had
Okay.
Motilal Mishri, it had Bakshi Rashid, it had DP Saab, and it had two more members. I don't remember their name. And then, when in I think it was 1946 that he was in jail, and I remember an instance. I was a kid at that time, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and my grandmother said, "Let's go and meet your father in jail." I can't tell you that scene in front of me with the jailer is still, it's a sort of a nightmare for me because that jailer did not allow us to meet him. And my grandmother was totally desperate. And she brought some
Oh,
food with the jailer. She told the jailer, "At least take this food and give it to him." She said, "No, I will not." And they were so rude that all the way
why?
back we walked and she cried and cried and cried right up to our reaching home. So those were the days when
How
they
old
were
was
not
he?
great.
How old was he then?
This is in 46, we would be about 28 because
28.
he was 1918 born.
Darsab, Vijayji, I have also heard that he is a personality who has helped Indian Army during Pakistani aggression in Kashmir. He played a very, very
That's right.
pivotal role.
That's
Do
right.
you
You
have
see,
some sense about it? Yes.
what happened when the Indian Army landed in Kashmir, they did not know their whereabouts. So they set up a huge brigade under DP Saab to guide the Indian Army. And I remember a very interesting anecdote. There was a general, Sardar general, who at one time I met him in Delhi, long time ago, and so I introduced myself. He says, "You're DP's son?" I said, "Yes." So he took off his chappals. He said, "Look what your father has done." His toes had been cut. I
Oh,
didn't know why. So he said, we were in Dras, and on a horseback came a young gentleman, and he started strategizing and telling us where to go and how to go about and where we are. We didn't know where we are. He said, suddenly he looked at me, he said, "Major, take off your shoes." So I said, "I don't take orders from anybody else but my superior." He said, "Major, I'm telling you, take off your shoes now."
my
So he took off his shoes, and he had he had frozen feet.
snow
And
frost.
DP
Yeah.
Saab gave him his shoes, which saved his legs, but his toes had to be amputated.
Oh,
So those are the human stories of DP Saab, which are so many. I mean, it's a great happiness for me when a person from nowhere comes up to me and he says, this is what DP Saab did for me. This is how he treated me. And anybody and everybody that came home was a guest. And everybody was a guest
I
of
know.
honor, which we are trying to
DP sir,
do.
yeah, DP
In,
Saab,
in,
DP Saab had a relationship when after I'm more interested in the beginning. We'll talk about all these things. I was interested in one post Lucknow when he completed his law and he got introduced to Jawaharlal Nehru, then Prime Minister. And
yeah,
Nehru was very popular in those times. Nehru was something very indispensable personality in those
right,
times
right,
because he was the first prime minister and all.
right.
Being in relationship with him and just corresponding with him and suggesting him at many occasions, I wanted to know how this relationship worked and where did it help in the political scenario of the state and the nation in
Basically,
those times.
the relationship between Pandit Jawaharlal and DP Saab uh, became a part of history of Kashmir.
Okay.
And you could say that he was a pointsman for Pandit Jawaharlal in Kashmir. And Pandit Jawaharlal trusted him. And Pandit Jawaharlal himself was very fond. I don't think many people know that Pandit Jawaharlal spent his honeymoon in Dras. How he went to Dras in 1920s, even I can't imagine.
My God.
And that is how fond he was. And I remember an anecdote my father told me. They were in Northeast somewhere, and they landed up, and he called him in the evening, and he said, DP, did you see something? He said, what? He said, the airport here is called Pamposh. तो कश्मीर की बड़ी याद आई. So that is how
Okay.
close they were. And anything and everything regarding Kashmir, he would be consulted.
It is said that some Dr. Karan Singh was once said by Nehru that I'm already briefed by DP Saab on I don't know which issue. There was some issue going on that he said DP Saab had already briefed me
Yeah,
about.
there are many such issues, but I don't think I should talk about them. But
Yeah,
he
yeah, we
also,
cannot, and certain things. Yeah,
yeah, coming back to the study group, there are many
yeah,
artists, and I don't want to embarrass them by naming them, whom the study group with DP Saab helped to go to Baroda School of Art. And most of them became famous when they came back. But again, it was a great satisfaction that they haven't forgotten and they still remember him.
साउंड इज स्लाइटली ड्रूपिंग अगेन. थोड़ा सा
Yeah,
कुछ हल्का सा वायर वगैरह में कुछ
maybe,
या
maybe. Is
क्योंकि
this
देयर इज
okay?
सम दिस इज फाइन,
Is
दिस इज
this
फाइन नो.
uh,
There is some probably it goes away or comes back and slightly. Yes, sir. I mean, I think. I mean, there are what aspect of DP Saab to discuss. I mean, it is all the areas. I have heard about. There was one interview of Parsa Sarthi, the ambassador Parsa Sarthi and
yeah,
ambassador Lamba, and they were
yeah,
all. They said that Lamba Saab said that I got my married because of DP Saab, and Parsa Sarthi said that I got my first vehicle because of DP Saab. He used to take interest into your
that-
personal, very very personal accounts and very
that's
very
very
personal.
true. But I must
Vijay ji,
also say that the
yeah,
part of the popularity he had in uh,
mm,
Russia
yeah,
or Moscow was because of my mother. She's still
yeah.
known as Rani Babi.
Rani Babi, I have heard about a great deal
She
about
is
her. Yeah,
mentioned, and I think a lot of credit does go to her. And Moscow assignment was wonderful. I think that was probably his best years, I would say, because he was a politician, he was not a diplomat. But he made a
okay.
success out of being a diplomat, so much so that he convinced the Soviets to sign an Indo Soviet friendship treaty,
Friendship treaty. Yeah,
which was then culminated in the uh, uh, setting up of Bangladesh.
Bangladesh war.
And
Yeah, actually, I know that this DP Saab's role in Moscow is something very monumental as far as our relationship with USSR is concerned. And 71 war, of course, Bangladesh, it was a situation when America was slightly they were going against us, and they had just placed some, some vessel into the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal. And it is all because of DP Saab's, his hard work and his talent, has his intelligence and his mastery, that the Russians came to our rescue, and then the balance of power started happening. And there are many
that's
many
very
things I don't know. Yes,
yeah,
please.
that's very true. But again, if you go by whatever little I know, for example, you were right, he was one of the youngest. I think he was 31 when he addressed the United Nations. And when he
Yeah.
was pitched against Sir Zafrullah,
साउंड का क्या हो रहा है? Sound is not coming. There is an issue with the sound. Hello.
this is not my fault. This is the
Yeah.
fault of the Airtel or whatever line we are on. We were cut
Okay.
off.
Probably there's a, yeah, yeah. There's an
So
internet issue.
Sir Zafrullah,
Hmm.
yeah, Sir Zafrullah came up to him after his address
Yeah.
and said, "My dear young man, remember one thing: common sense is not very common, and you have a lot of it." Which they often used to quote. Yeah, that's that. something. And then, of course, you already mentioned that he's becoming the Home Secretary and then Home Minister. But another good thing was in 1951 is when we set up the education policy, and he was
Hmm.
part of the group. And it gives me pride today that the new education policy that Government of India has set up, a lot of paras are from our education policy of 1951. We didn't go very far, but I hope now they go far because education wise we are still lacking behind. That's another point, but that's all right. But he was partly instrumental in that. Then he held various portfolios like uh, agriculture, education, industries. Then in 1957, they formed an opposition party called Democratic National Conference, DNC.
Democratic.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it's right of me or wrong of me to say it, but we had no money. We had to move out of our house, and all of them were left as Sadiq Saab was the president. He hardly had any money. Qasim Saab was there, and DP Saab was there, and Dogra Saab was there. They were all stalwarts who were more or less thrown out by Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad. But then I think in 1961 they came back to the government. And then in 1969 he was designated as ambassador to USSR. I remember he was very, very upset, very angry. He said, I'm a politician, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not even a career diplomat. I don't know. So I don't think I should say no to Mrs. Gandhi. I can't go do it. I won't go. So then everybody said, now go, we'll also travel around Russia, see Russia. Our vision was very small, that was to travel. But the vision then became very large as far as he's concerned. And he had got lot of respect from the Soviets. When he passed away and I went to collect his belongings from there, I cannot even tell you how wonderful the Soviets were in helping me, in setting aside all the protocols. The foreign minister would come and pay his condolences without any protocol, without anything, or help me in packing up and saying, okay, thank you very much. Anything you need, anytime, you're most welcome. So that was his personal that aura that he had built uh, around himself, which remained till his last
I
as
think there was a divine touch in his personality. As you said other day, we were talking telephonically. You said that when he died, when unfortunately at such a young age, and certain things happened around Indraji with Indraji also. And I have also heard somewhere, even Mufti Muhammad Syed told somebody that he was a Kalandar. He was not from this world. He was from some other world, and he was just here because he is here. Yes, sir. Please.
12th June 1975 was a historic day for India. That's when Mrs. Gandhi lost Shah Commission. That's when she lost Gujarat, and that's when she lost DP Dar. So these
Oh,
three important things happened on the same day. And I remember Mrs. Gandhi quoting this number of times to me when I was working there, saying that, you know, I miss DP. I said, well, you're giving me a complex sitting here, but that is how fond she was of him. And it was a nice. I mean, in a short period of time, I think he achieved a lot. He became the policy plan when he came back from Moscow in '71. Then he was uh, policy planning external affairs,
minister.
and that is where the Bangladesh thing took place, and that is where he even visited Pakistan, and he was probably the Pakistan press said at that time the only diplomat who went shopping for books. And he tried to contact Faiz Ahmed Faiz, which he couldn't beat, and quoted Faiz. He was, he knew Diwan Ghalib and Diwan Mir complete, which I
He
think
was
the
himself a
only other.
poet. He was himself a poet. He
He
had
was
written a
he was
poetry.
he was he used to write poetry, yes, under a pen name. And
Pen name.
but
What was the pen name?
I would remember, but I'll try and remember it. I'll tell you. But at the same time, he anywhere, any majlis that he would be in, he would be the star
He'll be the
because
star.
he had no regrets. B, he had no money ever. He didn't know the difference between 10 rupees and 100 rupees. I remember an
My God.
instant we were together in Calcutta and he gave me a bundle of notes. He said, give all this to the waiters. So when he left, I came out and I saw these line of waiters on the corridor of the hotel. So in my own humble way, I gave them 20 rupees each. I came to the car. He said, "Have you given them?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You must have given them 20 rupees." I said, "How much do you want me to give? There were 20 people." He said, "I gave you the money. Please go back and give them at least 100 each." I said, "Daddy,
My God.
100 rupees is a lot of money to give to me." So
Those
I had to go
days.
back. Yeah, I had to go back. I had to line them up again and give them 100 rupees each. So that's how it was. Then he tells me, he says, if you ever go to a hotel, you must tip the waiter well. He looks after you well. Well, anywhere he
Hmm.
went, he was looked after very well. I don't, I still don't understand that without money, he lived well, he drank well, he was well dressed. I mean, I can't even compete with this dress even today. He was
Immaculate.
very,
Very
very
immaculate. It was. Yeah.
immaculately. And he did a lot of, even as Minister of Planning, which he became in 72,
Hmm.
it was very, very good period for him. As a member of parliament, I remember he was minister and he had to defend Ellen Mishra. I don't know whether you've heard of him.
Yeah, yeah.
Helen
I've heard of
Mishra had corruption charges against him. That's one of the very few times I've gone to parliament. And I
it.
heard TP Saab speak. I walked out and I thought that there's not a bigger saint than Ellen Mishra. And
Okay.
Ellen Mishra was then absolved of all the charges later after that speech. That is, and he had great respect from the parliament. I remember one Pilu Modi once in parliament.
Pilu
Uh,
Modi, a very
yeah,
controversial personality.
yeah. He got up and he said, "I want the minister to reply. I know he's very well versed in languages, but I want a three-word reply." So he repeated this couple of times. He said, "Please, minister, can you reply me in 3 words?" So DP Saab got up. He said, "I want notice," and sat down. And the whole parliament, parliament was so sort of happy about it. Then in 75, he had to go back to Moscow. Again, he was not
Okay.
happy to go back to Moscow because he was not well. So I remember accompanying him to Mrs. Gandhi, and they said, "I'm not well. But you still want me to go to Moscow?" She said, "It's in the interest of the country." He said, "If it's in the interest of the country, then I'll go. It doesn't matter." Well, then you
Hmm.
know that in June he came, in May he came, in June he passed away, which
It
was,
was due to cardiac arrest, or there was some.
he was
I mean,
it was cardiac. It was heart. That was probably his fourth. He got one in Bangladesh. He got one in Moscow. This was his third.
I think. I mean, in those times, he was on a very high position in technology because I think his work was very, I mean, tumultuous. He is a very hardworking guy. But
He
at the
was.
same time, there were facilities also. I mean, if he could take care of his health and go for some.
Well, it's unfortunate to narrate that the pacemaker had to be brought in from Hong Kong or Singapore at that time, and it arrived one day earlier, but it could
Oh,
not be fitted. So I mean, it's just destined. That's all I can say.
it's all
But
destiny. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's the first person who came to condole me was Mrs. Gandhi, which I still feel obligated to because she had lost a lot on that day. Despite that, she came to condole me. She was the first person to come and condole. The next, when we went to Srinagar, took the body to Srinagar, and when we took him for cremation, is when I remembered him saying, we always used to tell him you're a drawing room politician. I mean, he said, no, you may say so, but a man is always known by the number of people that accompany his funeral. And my God, I
Oh,
wish everybody has the same way that he got it. I think every household came out to say we
yeah.
didn't farewell.
My father knew him very much. My father was student leader. He was so much. He also wept a lot. He used to remember DP Saab. Not that he did anything for him, but just because he was such a sincere leader of the country, and he was among those people who was very clean and very
No,
hardworking. And
it's interesting. We were in Lucknow many years ago at a wedding, and a lady came up to me and said, are you so and so? I said, yes. He said, my father was one of the people who saved Kashmir. I said, fine. He said he was with Brigadier Rajinder Singh and he was wounded and he was brought back. I said, okay. He said, then we had nothing. We were very living from hand to mouth. And he always used to talk about DP Saab. So one day we told him, I said, why don't you go to him and ask him for something here so that we can have a better living. So anyway, he went to Delhi and he went to the planning commission where DP Saab was the planning minister, and he sent a chit. So firstly, the secretary told him he's busy in a meeting. He said, fine, just send him the chit. He left the meeting, DP Saab left the meeting, came out, took him in, and told them, the gentleman, I have to introduce you, the hero of Kashmir.
uh,
So then he told him, what can I do for you? He said, the only thing I think of is, can you get me a petrol pump in Lucknow? So the things she said, then it happened and nothing happened for almost 6, 8 months. So they persuaded their father again to please go and remind him. He must have forgotten it. So he
hmm.
goes back to Delhi and the Sahib told him, he says, I'm feeling very sad that I can't get you a pump in Lucknow itself, but we can give you a pump 3 kilometers away. He said, please do that. So he said, my family every day in the morning prays for his family and DP Sahib. What else do you want? I mean, there's nothing more that I could ask for.
He was a personality of that kind. I want Vijay, I want to just because we'll continue with these beautiful anecdotes. They are untold and unknown anecdotes. Nobody knows about them. But because you were there with him in the Moscow as well. First of all, I wanted to know about this. We know about these great people. We have Field Marshal Manik Shah, and then we had R.C. Cow, the cowboy whom we call the brilliant, I mean, spy master, another
Yeah.
Kashmiri, brilliant Kashmiri fellow. But then it is said that DP Saab was the chief. There were many architects in that, 71 Liberation War, but DP Saab was the chief architect. I really want to. I mean, I don't want. I really don't want that. At least you go to the what is the most confidential kind of a things which are supposed to be secret. But at the same time, what is public, and at least let this perception be very clear, because I have seen General KK Arora in a General KK Arora standing and DP Saab being garlanded. I was astonished as a child because I never knew this politics and all that. I said DP Saab being garlanded and KK Arora standing night by, and then General Manik Shah having conversations with DP Saab. So then I really understood what could have been the role of DP Saab. Of course, others also, other brilliant people also. Please elucidate, please slightly open up this discussion about this
Let me
liberation war.
talk to you about Shimla.
Shimla is the later, that's a
Shimla,
later part.
yeah, Shimla agreement, there were many Kashmiris, as you rightly said, R.N. Kao, P.N. Haksar, P.N. Dhar, T.N. Cole, and D.B. Saab,
Absolutely.
and Mrs. Gandhi. And Shimla agreement had
Audible.
almost collapsed.
Vijayji, it's
Shimla
not
agreement had,
audible. Yeah.
are
Go
you,
on.
am I okay now? Is it okay now?
No, I mean, it's not that to that extent. Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah. Hello,
Okay. So
please.
Shimla agreement had almost collapsed. TP Saab had again got heart problem, so he was in hospital.
आवाज
I
नहीं आ
was
रही.
sitting with him. I was sitting with TP Saab in hospital in Shimla, and suddenly we saw Mr. Bhutto walk in. And what they discussed, I don't know. But at the same time, we had Ashwini Kumar, who was heading the BSF, and he came in and he just told DP Saab, all your theories have failed, all your poetry is over. This agreement cannot go
Sound
through.
is feeble. Sound is feeble. Sound is feeble. We are not
Is it
able to
okay?
listen to you.
Is it okay?
Yes,
Is
comes
it
and
okay
goes.
now?
Yes, slightly.
Yeah, but
Your this
that
picture is frozen. Yeah,
that must, that
picture is
must be because
frozen.
of the
Yeah.
line. That must be because of the line.
Hmm.
So there, I think the Shimla agreement basically was finalized in the hospital when Bhutto met TP Saab. And that was the
Not.
uh, best part of it because I think not many people know that Shimla agreement had almost collapsed. And you were talking about the strategy. Were you talking about the strategy? Am I audible?
Hello.
Am I audible?
Very very slow voice is coming. Your yeah. Now it's like yeah yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Please.
you were asking about the strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, I was asking about the strategy because it is said that DP Saab's strategical mind was very brilliant. Hello.
Yeah, it
We didn't
was.
understand about the Shimla. You can still repeat a bit of Shimla because it was not audible. Yeah.
Shimla agreement had almost collapsed.
Yes.
I was there with him because Deepsa was in hospital and I was there with him. And then Mr. Bhutto walked in unannounced. He met him and what they discussed, I don't know. But later on, Mr. Ashwini Kumar came, who was heading the BSF, and he told
Okay.
DP Saab that there's no Shimla agreement. All your poetry has failed. So he told Ashwini,
Oh.
he said, wait for some time. Something or the other is going to happen. And as you know, Shimla agreement was signed at midnight of that
Yes.
day. And most of the people, secretaries at STA had already left, thinking that it's not going to happen. But it happened. It happened because he played a major role in that. And that was because earlier he had also been to Pakistan and he developed some relationship as far as Bhutto is concerned, a personal relationship.
Okay. But Shimla agreement in the general public perception. Sorry for the intervention. I have heard that DP Saab had suggested something which was not accepted, and there were all these Kashmiri Pandit lobby Brahmins, all KP elites who were surrounded by Indraji. Even PN Haq sir and other people were also there. Even Karan Singh ji, this man Manik Shah told somewhere when Indraji came back and he asked Manik Shah that we went to Shimla agreement. Manik Shah said that they made monkey out of you. They make monkey out of you. So
Yeah.
a brilliant person, as brilliant and as nationalistic person, as intelligent person as DP Dar around, and all the Kashmiri Brahmins, the best brilliant brains around. I don't understand why was this was certain things were not accepted and what happened actually. Why people say that this
No,
Shimla agreement was
basically in retrospect, there were two things major in the Simla agreement.
not
One
okay.
was the safe return of Mujibur Rahman. Not many people would know, or not many people would remember, that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was under uh, sort of Pakistan had announced him to be jailed.
Oh,
Yeah. And then it was General Yahya Khan who
oh,
had sort of said that Mujibur Rahman should be put in jail. And not only that, what we heard at that time in Shimla from the Pakistanis was that they had even hung a rope there for Sheikh Mujib. Anyway, that's beside the point. So one issue was Sheikh Mujib's safe return to Bangladesh. Second
That was the
is
main issue.
yeah. Second was who was going to feed these 93,000 people.
Yes.
Third was the almost 10 million Bangladeshis who had already entered India.
Refugees.
Nobody talks about that.
They had to be fed.
Everybody, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody talks about 93,000 prisoners should not have gone back.
No, no.
But they,
What could we do with them? What was their purpose here? 93,000 prisoners. हमें क्या करना था? हमारी army इतनी बड़ी already है. What?
you see, you have to treat them under the Geneva Agreement. You have to treat them like VIPs. So you have to
Yeah.
feed them well, you have to put them up well, and you have to look after them. And you were not in a position economically to look after them because you had just finished the war. And then also, Bhutto promised the moon. But unfortunately, when Bhutto went back, he fell into bad days. And then he was hung. But
Ziaul Haq
that's
came.
that's
Ziaul Haq came.
yeah, okay. But that is the you see, everybody thinks of in a very small when the international politics is played. It's not played by fortunately small minds like me. So I'll always
Right.
think small. I'll always not be able to gauge what is going around. I'll say, okay, Simla failed. Why did it fail? Not many people would analyze that. Today,
No,
if
no,
I'm
but
sitting here,
all these factors were important. Refugees had to leave our country. Faujis have to return back to Pakistan, and because
yeah,
they were also a liability on us. And then Mujib Rahman had to come out. Otherwise, it would have been a very very odd situation because unless and
terrible.
until
Suppose hypothetically today, if Mujib would have been killed before arriving, you would have had a catastrophe.
it would have been a catastrophe. Yeah, certainly.
So those are things which not many people know, and not many people would like to know.
But, but
But
Vijayji, was it a bargain? I don't know whether it was part of agreement or not. That some portion of the Chumb area, some certain strategical areas had to be given back. Is it true
this
or it
is
is
a
just?
very, these are very minor things, sir. When you look at the larger interest of the country, then whether you give 2 miles of champ or don't give 2 miles of champ are very minor issues, in my
Because
opinion.
they said
I
that
mean,
it was a strategically they were at the
you have to look
better
at the
better
larger
position.
interest of the country,
Okay.
not look at the small things that whether we give champ or we gave back Haji Pir. Why should we give Haji Pir? It was a very strategic point, but we
Okay.
did.
It is being said, sir, that this I mean DP Saab had a big role in Mukti Wahini and the creating the cadres, making this war congenial, so that because Mukti Wahini played a great role in supporting Indian army because. I mean, they say that DP Saab had already laid down an entire network, and he had a big role in that. I don't know.
The network that he had laid down was political. But the basic
Okay,
Mukti Bahini training and other things were under Mr. R.N. Kao, who,
Kausar.
in my
Okay.
opinion, did a brilliant job.
Brilliant man, sir. He was a brilliant, another brilliant Kashmiri. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. But the credit for Mukti Bahini training and other things should go to uh, Mr. R.N. Kao. And as far as the political part of it's concerned, it should go to Mr. D.P. Dhar.
Political part.
So we had a couple of politicians staying with us in Delhi those days from Bangladesh.
Uh,
And well, I shouldn't name them, I won't name them, so it's not correct. But because they were staying in disguise and they were then became the front runners of Bangladesh politics.
and I think he was such a wonderful personality that he had the finest equations with the General Manik Shah and all the people who were involved in this 71 war at the same time. I mean,
said, just to remind you, General Manik Shaw was the person who was present during the signatures of Maharaja Hari Singh. He was a brigadier then, and
Yes,
that
yes,
is when
yes.
he got in touch with, when he got into contact with DP Saab. So they knew each other very well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember
And they,
General Saab. Yes, yes.
I
Please,
remember
please,
a
sir.
very
Please
interesting
continue.
anecdote here when the
Yeah.
when the Pakistan army surrendered, and they were all sitting. I think it was General Manik Shaw, Mr. P. N. Aksar, DP Saab, and suddenly they got very excited, and without realizing that they had no confirmation, they sent a note to Mrs. Gandhi in Parliament, and she got excited and she jumped up that Pakistan army has surrendered. Now, after that, they were on pins and pricks as to somebody should go and confirm it. So then
Okay.
they sent a general there to find out whether it was true or not, which came a day late, but already the announcement was made. But they were very good friends, I must say. That Akshay Sahib,
Because in the
Akshay Sahib was one of the few. There were two people who used to call DP Sahib as Durga. One was Pandit Jawaharlal, and second was P.N. Aksar.
Durga by name,
Yeah,
first name.
yeah,
Okay. That was a kind of intimacy they had with.
they had.
Uh,
That's right. That's right.
and Darsab, this the five Brahmins, Panch Pyare, were the. I mean, Indira Gandhi's. It was considered five Brahmins from Kashmir, five Kashmiri Brahmins, not from Kashmir. They were from different parts of country. Certain have been already migrated. Many Huxer was already. I mean, their family had already migrated. But you had R.C. Cow, and you had P.N. Dar, and you had T.N. Call, and you had D.P. Dar, and how do you explain? I mean, I just want to because this is a or it's a Kashmiri diaspora, and certainly we feel proud that in those days these brilliant people were there. They did some great things for the country. And how did you place DP Saab's relationship with them, and how were they as an individuals? Because you were yourself witness to this entire polity. You are part of
So
DP Saab's family.
as I said, that the intimacy was quite good because their interaction was very good.
Okay.
For example, when he was in Moscow and he had to send some uh, messages which should not be tampered with en route to the Prime Minister, he would send it through his secretary, who used to talk Kashmiri, to Mr. P.N. Dhar, who would respond in Kashmiri and pass on the message to the Prime Minister.
Oh,
It was
that's
only later on that we came to know that the Russians had trained one operator in Kashmiri, so they had to change that strategy also. But they were quite close. All of them have been very close. I mean, I have interacted with them. Babubhai, for example, P.N. Aksar was a great person to sit with. He had lovely
very
stories
well
to tell.
learned. Uh,
So was P.N. Dhar. So was T.N. Kaul. Tiki Bhai had
Tiki
tremendous,
Bhai.
tremendous. I mean, then he had the experience. He was ambassador in Moscow. He was ambassador in the United States. He was the foreign secretary, and all of them had. There was nothing that. Otherwise, you go through the bureaucratic web. You don't. It takes you time to cut across. Here, since Mrs. Gandhi had picked up a team which she could trust, and the team could trust each other, which was very important at that time. And the result
That's a
was
great.
that you had a Bangladesh, and as one of our Kashmiri member parliaments at that time, who was in the opposition, was Shamim Ahmed Shamim, he
Shamim
said
Ahmed
in
Shamim.
Parliament, to Mrs. Gandhi, he said, "You have not changed the history, madam. You've changed the geography also."
Ah, great.
Very nice. And that
And
is because,
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
P.N. Huxer himself was a socialist. They were all from the socialist bloc, and
Yeah.
their whole this planning somewhere down the line they were reconciling with each other's mindset. And P.N. Huxer, I have heard he was also a very brilliant man, and P.N. Dar, and I don't know about T.N. Call whether he was a socialist or not. But the entire bandwagon was socialist. Those everybody Nehru's policy was socialism. But then again, I think these people have done some formidable roles in their own capacities in the modern India.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely, definitely, definitely. I must say. I
it
mean,
is later
there's no
on.
doubt that these Kashmiris have done Kashmir proud and they've done India proud.
I mean, it was later, unfortunately, when P.N. Aksar fell away with Sanjay Gandhi and these people. I mean, other such a brilliant personality. I think DP Saab would have been not been much happy. I don't know how would have he dealt with the situations later on. Because I want to ask you one very honest question, Vijay Bhai. That is, you know, we had great leaders like Sheikh Mohammad Abdullah, Sadiq Saab, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Nehru was from this community, and Kashmiris have the same blood and same origin. But then other culture came in and we became the minorities, but we are the same basically. I do not understand. Well, then such great stalwarts, Kashmiri Pandits who were ruling the country, and they were the great nationalist people, great givers. They have given so much to the country, and even Sheikh Saab was, for that matter, they were that time he was very secular. I mean, he saved lot many people in that Kabali raid, and other things happened later on. But one thing, the democracy works with the numbers. Democracy works with the numbers, and all these great people, even at the local level, DP Sahab, a personality like DP Sahab, then we had that another leader, Kashyap Bandhuji, and the third personality which we had, all these people, they were all great personality. They didn't ever think of just protecting in political protection to this community, because at as a vision, couldn't they foresee 20, 30 years down the line, democracy is a game of numbers, and ultimately what will happen to this community?
And my community, being a Kashmiri Pandit, which I'm proud of, I don't think we
Yeah,
need protection. We have always protected ourselves. This is probably the seventh time that the Kashmiri
yeah.
Pandits had to leave Kashmir. There was a time then when there were only 11 families left. Today you have at
Yeah,
least
that is the
2,000.
story with it.
But fact is that I have, if I can speak from my heart, as of today, I heard, I think it was one of the ladies who was on your show a couple of days ago. Uh, she was a teacher,
Okay.
and she referred to in your show that um, what is it that I can do? Jugalji, I think you can take the responsibility. All of us, in whichever corner of the world we are, can do a little bit for our own community. We can do a little bit for our own country. We can go back. For example, Parmo Sahib, I heard on your show. Now, Parmo Sahib can easily have a art camp in Kashmir. And anybody and
He's
everybody
trying.
who wants to,
He's trying.
I heard. He's what?
I mean, he's trying for that camp. I mean, he's on a very advanced age now. He's in mid 80s, but yet then again, he's trying to have a rapport for an art camp. Yeah.
So we've had almost about nearly 12 art camps in our school.
Okay.
We'll facilitate him whenever he wants. Anybody for that. I think it was Miss Killam who was the other day, who's been a teacher herself,
Yeah.
and she was on your show. She's a teacher. She can come and propagate her teaching. It doesn't matter. We are the persons who really brought in education into Kashmir,
Yeah, we were the teaching community, great
and
teaching community we had.
we have, and we were the literate people. If we are surviving today in Kashmir, even these 2,000 families, because in their little village, they are the literate people. Not that they need to read the postcard now, but they can still read the emails, if at all, in their village. But that's apart. You know, what I'm not understanding is I'm not promising anything to anybody, but certainly will facilitate anybody and everybody who would like to come.
That
I'm
was
not saying come and settle down. Come and see your own roots.
It's important. That's what we
I
do in
was,
Shitala's
I'm
conversation.
sorry to tell
Yeah.
you, but I was in America couple of years ago, and a young kid came up to me and she said, "I want your help." I said, "In what?" He said, "I'm doing research." I said, "What are you researching on?" "On my roots." I said, "You're the wrong person. Go and ask your parents, ask your grandparents. They will be able to tell you about your roots." If that is what we are, I mean, we are all in our own cocoons. Everybody, I have talked to so many people. They say, "Oh,
Hmm.
security." Well, security doesn't matter. Question is, your country, your community matters. And for that, I think through your show, I would tell anybody and everybody, please visit Kashmir. Visit as a tourist. Come and see your own home. Come and see your own mohalla. It's all right. It may be nostalgic. I'm not saying that you spend money on doing anything. You see, today I feel very happy that Sheetalnath temple is back. People have started
Yes.
praying there after
Great,
30
great work.
years of being
Andu
dead.
Saab and the other
Yeah,
people have done. God,
30, 35 years.
yeah.
I think
Shitalath is
Sheetalnath
the,
would
yeah.
show. But look at the center of Sheetalnath. How many of us know about it? How many of us know that Veer Sarwarkar or Gandhiji addressed
Gandhi
from
ji,
Sheetalnath
Jawaharlal
platform?
Nehru, Nehru ji had come,
Jawaharlal Nehru.
Nehru, Sheikh
How many
Abdullah,
of us
all
know
people.
that? Those are our roots. Those are our genes. Why are we losing them? We should not lose Kashmir. There is a,
Our,
I see
our
an
eight,
element.
eight, our 8 episodes were devoted to Shitalath only. Shitalath
uh,
conversation started with Shitalath only. That was the whole idea.
I'm so
That
happy
was
that
what,
you called it Sheetalnath conversation. I mean, how many
my,
people,
yeah.
modern people of your age, I would say, not my age, but your age, know that there was a exclusive Kashmiri newspaper called Martin,
Martin, yeah.
which was published in Sheetalnath, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes. All the great people, Jalal Kelam to all, they used to edit that.
Yeah,
I mean, all the
Shurain Fotadar, Jalal Kilam,
Shivnarayan Fotedar Sahab. Yeah.
yeah, all these people. I
We
mean,
lived
we
there.
have.
I was, yeah.
I'm
Actually,
sorry, I'm
what I
speaking my heart
what I was
on a.
Vijayji, what I was asking is that there's a great nostalgia about Sheetalnath. Sheetalnath certainly, I mean, if people will understand Sheetalnath, they will understand the modern Kashmiri Pandit culture, their movements, and everything. What I was asking was simple. I was simply telling it was the first time in the post-independent India when Kashmiri Pandits had a role in the, the political corridors of power. You know,
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
had a very very substantial role. I mean, they उनका सिक्का चलता था दिल्ली में. I mean, even if I remember when I was in a college, one of the chief of the Air Force he became Mr. Call. So we were
Yeah.
student leaders here. We were in Kashmir as well as Jammu and other places, Madhopur and other places. So I used to tell everyone we were three, four Kashmiri Pandit chaps. He said that there is some call over there. Another Kashmiri Pandit, he's a cousin, he's an uncle to Jugalji. So kind of an identification. So we used to identify with
No, you had
this
a General Raina who was heading the army.
General Raina. He remained there for a lot of time.
Heading
General Raina.
Air Force was being headed by SK Kaul, whom you're referring
I
to.
only wanted to know that at least they could have political constituencies, one to constituency reservation, one to assembly reservation. That would certainly be, to an extent, give us a legitimacy because in democracy, vote works. Because in India, whatever we may say, we are divided on the caste lines, color lines, and our votes are normally. It is first time during Modi's time these things have now consolidated. Now we are, moving apart these subcaste lines, but earlier, we have this in even UP, we have Ahir, Jat, Gawale, all kind of sections, people working differently. So what I wanted to say that we had an opportunity, at least those people, the great personalities at that point of time, they could have done this bit of correction to the legislature. I don't know. I'm a common man. I don't know how easy it would be, but I think they
You,
had the capacities.
you're talking about democracy and you're yourself saying majority. I think
Yeah.
delimitation was delayed by almost about 30 years now. That would have really helped us, but not
That's
now
true.
because we're very few there. But at that time, it would have helped us, certainly. But if you ask me, reservation for a seat in assembly or seat in parliament, I'm sorry to say I don't agree there. We have to firstly come back to our root. I'm not saying that everybody should live there. No. I'm not promising that you won't have a terrorist threat. But I'm certainly wanting everybody to come, even for 10 days, even for 15 days holidays. Come and see your roots. Come what is happening. I foresee a Naya Kashmir, a new Kashmir now. I foresee it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
there
said
in
it.
that.
I really liked that when 370 was out. That you said that now there is a time for a Naya Kashmir. That
Yeah,
was something
definitely.
very unusual statement. It was not. I didn't find any such statement around. Even all the people of all the sections across. It was a very good statement. I really loved it. That now there's a time for Naya Kashmir. You said that.
Yeah, and I'm with it today also. I say the same thing. But all of us have to build it. No? You're
Yeah,
talking
it is.
about DP Das and you're talking about PN Haksas. And well, there are so many of us who can be equal to them today, but they have to come up. I remember a
Now,
small anecdote. I had a teacher, and Mr. Munshi, and he used to come and teach me. Probably I was in fifth class or sixth class. And one day my father walked in and he said, मुंशी साहब आपने कितना पढ़ा है? उसने कहा जी मैंने एमए किया है. And my grandmother was there. कहा मुंशी तुमने एमए किया? उसने कहा हाँ जी. कहते फिर क्यों दर बदर है? जाओ बाहर. Now later on when I met Munshi, Mr. Munshi suited, booted, roaming around in the streets of Delhi, I said, Munshi Sahib, where are you? He said, I'm in Calcutta. I said, how did you reach Calcutta? He said, I reached Calcutta with 8 annas in my pocket. And I
oh,
sat down on the railway station to get myself shaved. And while I was shaving on the newspaper, there was a wanted column, employment. And he took that and went to the office of the news person who had advertised. He said, this is my qualification, I want a job. So he said, okay. Then before leaving the office, he told him, I think his salary was 100 rupees. He said, can I borrow 50 rupees? He said, you're not joined. You want 50 rupees before joining? He said, yes. He said, why? He said, because I don't have any clothes. I said, what are you doing now? He said, I've become vice president of the company.
I
It was one of the Birla companies. That is what
big
we
company.
are. Why are
So we
we
are doing it.
lacking?
We are
Even if
successful
you
everywhere. Nowadays, you can see people around across the globe. Now, our boys and children and all the people are coming up very fast. They become HODs, head of the departments, head of the. They are doing great things in all the fields. That's true. But there is something missing. That is the identity. We always crave for that identity. That's why Shitalath conversation is there. Probably here people get very much attracted to it. One thing I
very,
wanted to
very,
ask about Vijayji about the Moscow days and your relationship because you were with the DP Saab and DP Saab I think was I have seen his many photographs somewhere he's near to sitting with Chandrasekhar ji somewhere he's with the I mean that Iraqi president what's his name Saddam
yeah.
Hussein and somewhere he's with some politicians of all sort of politicians apart from Kashmiri lobby as well and since you were a child and you have been in his household and you have observed your father right from the beginning, you must have also been known about the few of them, apart the poets and other things which you already mentioned, Faz Ahmad Faz and other people who used to visit Valley in those days. You have some memories about, I mean, any great
I can
personality.
only say this that anybody or everybody who came into contact with him just loved him.
Okay,
And whoever I have met later on after his passing away have had good words to say about him. His affection, he would be a youngster to a youngster, and to elderly, he would be an elderly. To a diplomat, he would be. I mean, if you talk those days, we had oil crisis once, if you remember, and he was
yes, we had.
part of Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabians were just very, very rude to the delegation. And he sat there. And the secretary at that time said, sir, nothing is going to happen. He said, just sit down, listen to them. So after some time, the Saudis said, What do you want? He said, we want oil. He said, what are you going to pay us with? He said, we'll pay you with exports from our country. So he convinced them. And that's how our oil crises were sort of diverted at that time. Anyway, I mean, Saddam Hussein had a great respect for him because when he came to India, first thing he told Mrs. Gandhi was, uh, I'm very grateful for meeting Mr. DP Dar. At the same time, the person who did not like Mr. DP Dar and Mr. P.N. Aksar was Henry Kissinger.
Oh my God, किसेंजर
When,
वैसे बहुत
when,
cynical आदमी था. He
when
was a
he came
cynical.
to meet Mrs. Gandhi, he said, I don't want these two people to be around. Mrs. Gandhi said, one of them will be around. So then P.N. Aksar was there and Mr. DP Dar was not there. But that's how they were. All of
I
them,
heard some. Yes, yes, please, please.
all
Go
of
ahead.
them were such fine people. I mean, the intellect and the mannerism of P.N. Aksar is something as an education for me personally. To be around with him was just phenomenal. And I used to have great arguments with him. Anyway, that's another story.
It is. I heard that there was some TN Cole was asked by Americans when DP Saab did this some agreement with the Russians. He said that we didn't know about it. He said that it's not my fault. It's your CIA's fault. You don't know about it. And another thing he asked, he said that what did you give? Why did you give concessions to the? Why did you agree? Had an agreement with Russians? He said that okay, you give us we will have agreement with you guys as well. You, I mean, agree with the same conditions what Russians agreed with us. So such were
Yeah.
there was such a tall statured, intelligent, sharp people to deal with. Person
Very
like Henry Kissinger, he was a rogue. I mean, he's
good.
considered to be a rogue in his own country.
He did mention, he said, two people I don't want to meet with the Prime Minister, Mr. Aksar and Mr. Jupiter. So these are some anecdotes one does remember. But I must tell you another little anecdote of my childhood.
Yeah.
I must have been, about 7 years old. I was in 1948. I was sent to Jamia Millia in Delhi. That was secularism of Kashmir. And in Jamia Millia, I had to say my namaz 5 times a day and read the Quran Sharif.
Oh,
I never understood why my father sent me to Jamia. Only
okay.
after I passed my 10th class and I entered the society did I realize the importance of that particular 2 years that I spent in Jamia. This was a time when it used to take you 7 hours flying from Delhi to Srinagar. I
Okay.
flew back with Bakshi Sahib at that time. It took us 7 hours. But that's something that has been very memorable and has been very useful to me being in Kashmir now. I understand a little more than others would a Kashmiri.
Okay.
And that's why I'm repeating again through you, anybody and everybody, like you say, Parmesa wants to hold a camp. Most certainly, please request him to get in touch with me. We will help him in any manner. Or the other, Mrs. Killam, she's been a principal there.
Yeah.
She owes it to Kashmir. She should visit. She's most welcome. She can stay at our guest house in the school. Likewise,
Uh,
many others, whoever want to.
Vijayji, one thing I want to ask, I mean, I think I should not ask it probably to a man of, because I am always of the opinion that our community, especially our youngsters, they are very fed up with our critical thinking and cynical thinking, which is probably inherited from our I mean, from last. They always want freshness of minds. They always want unsubjective minds. They want without prejudice. They are very open thinkers, youngsters especially, but they want to be proud of their past. Unless and until we tell them the stories about the great people, I mean, it will not be possible, because until we appreciate our own icons, we cannot get respect, we cannot get our esteem back. That's what I think. But one thing I would like to ask about is that I was born in 60s. I was very young, 5-6 साल का होऊंगा तब मैं. So it was around 67 agitation probably, and Parmeshwari agitation. Parmeshwari was
Yes,
just because she married into another culture, that was okay, but it was basically, it became the rallying point of the entire community, which was which was pushed against the wall. They didn't have the political space, and number was increasing, as I said, and democracy happens. And we had all these great people over there, and then finally, I don't know, we were very small. It is said, Ghazi Saab and other people, they said that this whole movement, this could have resulted into some political things, and people got sold. And it is also said that people got some jobs, somebody got some jobs, somebody got some doles, I don't know, whatever it happened. But it were very tinny in those days. But always this question is being said that, because I remember as a small child, because I used to, our house was on the tank. It was on the, upland. From upland, I used to see that they used to make these motifs of the ministers. Even one motif of DP Saab was also being done. He was
I
put on
remember.
hat, American style and Western style,
I remember.
and they used to just have this. I till now, today, luckily you are here, and I respect DP Sub and value DP Sub. We all respect him. We all love him. I mean, he's a great Indian, a great Kashmiri. But this thing has been always being said that that whole agitation got fizzled off because of DP Sub. Sorry, this is a very inconvenient question, but I want to ask today. This is an occasion to to speak about this.
First, tell me that the agitation we did in 1990, which is now 30 years, what have we got out of it? I mean, these 30, 32 years, except for what Bal Thackeray gave us, I don't think we got much of
Reservations.
it.
He gave
Yeah.
reservations. Students, our
But
people started. Yeah.
coming back to what your question, the Pandit community at that time had shown some courage, I must say, on a wrong uh, sort of a. The issue was not the correct issue at that time. But anyway, that was their wish. But I remember my father woke me up at middle of the night and he said, "Can you please drive me to the jail?" Well, my father didn't know how to drive. So we went to the
Okay.
jail. Chawan Sahib had come, I remember.
Chawan
And
Sahib had
Chawan
come.
Sahib, yeah, Bhabhi Chawan was the home minister. He had come. And he had come to the house and he said, whatever they want, center is prepared to give. But the question is, we must understand what they want.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't want to comment on what they wanted or what they did not want. But I remember Tim Saab telling me en route while we were going to the jail that you will not speak a word, which I didn't. Each one of them had their own theories. Each one of them kept on speaking and giving a speech till almost about 6 o'clock in the morning. And finally they said, "What should we do?" So DP
Hmm.
Saab said, "If you are agreeable, then I'll tell the Home Minister and he will probably put it in the news at 8 o'clock." They said, "Ah, yeah, please do that." So there was nothing derailing anything. It was a thing which had started, which we did not know how to come out of it. So a way was found, and finally Chawan Saab's news came at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was 8 o'clock, All India Radio that announced that the agitation has been called off. There was nobody paid anything or anything. All these stories are nonsense.
Oh,
I
there are a
don't
lot
think
many
that.
stories.
Yeah,
Situation
yeah,
there was very bad. I mean, in that place I was there. I remember I was a very small boy. People used to rush through, and lathi charges was happening. Then firing was happening, and something like that. It was going on, and like a cyclic process. It
but I
had
must
to
tell you
had some direction.
that
Hmm.
our relations downtown, particularly Sheetalnath, that is Kralakot area. So we
Kalkot,
would
yeah.
ring them up. "Do you need anything?" They said, "No, no, please keep the agitation on." I said, "Why should we keep the agitation on?" He said, "Because we're getting free milk, free vegetables. Everybody, all our mohalla walas are giving us stuff, reaching us home." No Kashmiri Pandit was harassed at that time. I don't think so. I don't think anybody was murdered at that time. This was a very small thing, but what happened in 1990 is unforgivable compared to that.
That was totally
Absolutely.
cleansing. Don't you think that it was just a prelogue to the 1990? 67 was a prelogue to the 1990. It was a curtain raiser to the 1990, probably. Don't you think they are
No, I wouldn't say
interrelated
that.
somewhere?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. There are many reasons one can give, but the right reason is that when we left in great uh, distress, I would say. But then we should have come back.
I don't
I
know.
think
There are many theories about it, and I don't know how to explain. It's very complex issue. We'll have a
it
discussion
is
on it
a complex
someday.
issue. We've made it more complex. I mean, you tell me, I mean, is there anything we've achieved great? I mean, everybody talks about Kashmiri Pandits all the time. Every leader talks about them. Then what?
They have been
I'm saying,
used by everyone. They have been used by everyone. They have been used by everyone. That which
why
I
should
know,
we be used? Why should we be used? Why should we
because
allow
you know
ourselves to be? I mean,
when
there
you
are
lack.
people who are staying there who are quite. Nirja Matu is staying there. And Nirja has been a pillar of strength to everybody there. She's an educationist. Every educationist can come and at least do nothing but deliver a lecture. Today, you have no problem. Anywhere in the world, you can do an online lecture. Why don't we do it? Why don't we revive our back into our own roots? I don't see any
I mean,
reason.
efforts like this can slightly gradually galvanize it. Let us see how things happen. I don't know. There's a very. It has become more of a rhetoric. People are going in a. They're more. I mean, condemned in a rhetoric kind of a thing. The basic thing, basic the disconnection with the root is there. That's why I came with this idea of Shitalath conversation. I wanted to connect them with the personalities, with the color, with the culture, in a way, maybe small way, in a humble way, so that at least people, youngsters, they understand about who. Nobody knows what DP Dar everybody knows. Children don't know about his. They don't know about his stature. If today my our children will know about the stature of DP Dar, they will know about the PN Haxer. Natural confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, identity. It also helps somewhere down the line, the mark, the identity. This is what I feel as a, I mean, a man. I'm a
I felt,
pedestrian.
I felt very proud when I was leaving Srinagar coming to Delhi that you have a statue of Sherwani there at the airport. Now, do
Yes.
we know Sherwani? If there was no Sherwani, there would have been no Kashmiri Pandit in 47. Let me tell you that. The way the
Yeah.
people were coming. I mean, the way they destroyed Baramulla, they were very near
Yeah, they were
destroying
the,
all
they
of
were
us.
the yes,
But
that's
that we
true.
should understand that
And
it's not only there are so many people. We have to get back to our roots. Basically, Julji, I must compliment you. You're doing a great job,
that's
and
wonderful.
through this great
uh,
job, please
that's a
ensure
discussion.
everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Vijayji. But I would like to say, in everybody's life, in all the great people's lives, unless and until there is a family strength and family support, you cannot move on. Because I have seen the people, the geniuses, the good friends. My good friends were very brilliant, but they didn't have a good family system, support system, especially the better half, the spouse. The things were not good. DP Saab was, I think, also I must say that he was bestowed with the great fortune of having a wife, whom she was Kamalaji was her name. I don't know
Rani
Kamala.
Bhavi. Her name
She
is
was known
also
as
Vijay
Rani
Lakshmi.
Babi, and her
Yeah,
I have heard about not only from Kashmiris, not only from acquaintances. Even I have heard about the Parsa Sarthi. I heard about the Lamba Saab. I heard about even Nirja Madam. Ma'am Nirja also told everyone. Everyone around, even I was talking about Avatar Motaji yesterday. He said, Jugalji, I was a nobody, novice, nobody knew him. I also went to the Rani Babi, handed her meals there. So
yeah.
she was a kind of a personality. I really want to know about her. I mean, such a revered personality, such a wonderful personality, your mother. Can you tell us something
You
about
also belong
her
to a
association in Moscow and other things, what
you,
she did in
you also belong to a very illustrious family of Matus.
Matus?
During that. During 47, there were hardly about 8, 10 people who owned a car, and my
Okay.
Nana, Pandit Raghunath Mattu, was one of them. But apart from being affluent, she was also brought up very well. And she just gelled with whatever my father wanted or did. She was a supplement to him.
Mm.
She unfortunately was very unwell in the initial years, but later on, she was in Moscow, she was just brilliant. I mean, nobody could differentiate her not being the ambassador's wife. And again,
And
affectionate.
they used to come in the morning and see the guests.
Yeah, they were guests would be staying there, and one day Dibisa walks into the living room and he sees 3 people sitting there. So he just sat there having his tea, and they told him, "Are you also a guest of Mr. D.P. Dhar?" They said, "No, I'm D.P. Dhar." He said, "Oh, it's very nice to see you, sir. Thank you. We're staying here." And Rani Babi has been looking after us. That was Rani Babi.
She was same in Moscow, same in Srinagar. I mean, her
Yeah,
identity was the similar.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Great, great
I
tribute to
remember
that.
her waking up in the middle of the night when the driver would come back with DP Saab late at night working, and she would get him, make an omelette for him or give him something to eat. That was Rani Babi.
Oh, so great, great a personality, a mother like that. She left. How many
Absolutely.
years after DP Saab left this mortal world?
Not many years. She passed away almost about 10 years ago. That's
Only 10 years ago. She was
she was almost 80
okay.
when she
She was
passed away.
active until the last times of her life, and
Well, she was not active, very active in the sense that she was not boisterous, but she was all right. She was okay. Last 10 days she spent peacefully at home and then she passed away.
that's so great about this. So
Great.
thank you very much. We had any anecdote you as a child you have observed your father or mother. You want special
I've,
anecdote you want to explain at
I
the
can
end
say that
because
I'm
now we
very
are
fortunate to have had both of them and have grown up under them. I mean, I can quote you another little anecdote that I was in first year college and
okay.
scooters had just come into the market. A scooter
Lambretta,
price was 1100
Bazaz,
rupees.
yeah.
No, it was Lambretta.
Lambretta, yeah.
Yeah. So it was 1100 rupees. So I went to Bashir Bakshi, who was the agent. I said, I can't afford 1100 rupees. I'll give you 100 rupees and I'll give you 50 rupees per month. He said, fine, yeah, Garwali baat, take it. So I said, okay. Now he told this to my father. So my father very, very rarely in my lifetime, in his lifetime, questioned me on anything. Very, very rarely. This was one of the occasions. He said, you asked for a scooter? I said, yes. Now I was in first year college, so I was cat's whiskers. So I said, yes. I'm not asking you for money. I'm giving it from my own pocket money, 100 rupees, and then I'm giving 50 rupees. He said, why? What happened to your cycle? I said, cycle, well, there are certain things which are not good. He said, how much will that cost? Now, I couldn't figure out. So I worked out the cost. It was 30, 40 rupees. He said, take it from your mother. There's no need to have a scooter.
Oh,
So my grandmother was very fond of me. So I went crying to her. I said, what is this? All that I need is a scooter and I know you're not paying for it and all that. She said, your father asked your grandfather for a car, which was 2600 rupees. And your father came crying the same way you have come because your grandfather said no. I said, why did he say no? He said, because he said, you're going in a Tonga? Tonga's all right. What's wrong with the Tonga? So your father told you you're going on a bicycle. What's wrong with that? So, but these are things which one learns, which one keeps. The other thing
standing
that
behind
he
this.
always told me, he said, keep your head on your shoulder. Never let it grow. If it grows, it'll fall, which is a great
That's that's true.
advice as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful. You are very fortunate to be born there. But before we go, I had just one irking question came back to my mind. Naya Kashmir document, Naya Kashmir drafting. It is said that DP Saab, there are many theories which say that Naya Kashmir was drafted, BPS Bedi and this DP Saab had drafted Naya Kashmir. I also want to know as a KP Kashmiri Pandit because I was reading Lawrence other day. I found that this was a whole myth that we were all very affluent. Lawrence says that about he explains somewhere because when he had come for a commission on the poverty in Kashmir, and it was probably commission was created by Ranbir Singh's time, and he had said that we have already nine tahsildars. In nine tahsildars, we have only one Kashmiri Pandit tahsildar, one Kashmiri Pandit Tahsildar. And land holding is not more than 10 canals or 8 canals or 12 canals. मतलब इससे ज्यादा बहुत कम है पॉइंट मतलब मे बी 1% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन में जिनकी जो 200 कनाल 1000 कनाल 80 कनाल इस तरह के लोग हैं एंड उसमें मुस्लिम्स भी हैं both of them are the big landlords and this whole concept that Kashmiri Pandits had this complete this when this Naya Kashmir draft came in, probably I heard that it was copied from the Russian document, and then it had only one motive. All other things, all other aspects which were there in the Naya Kashmir, they were not. They were thrown into the dustbin. Only one aspect was the land to the tiller. And land to the teller, what were the lands? Land was around 12 canal lands or 15 canal lands, and which later on the tiller became the owner and tiller made them the orchids. So I don't understand what was this Naya Kashmir document for?
Naya
Was
Kashmir
it
document, basically you could own 12 and a half acres, which meant about 98 canals you could keep. So I don't
okay?
think there was any 12 canals or 10 canals which were, yes, somewhere where there was, then you had to give, the tiller had to give you 25% of the revenue. The document was very nice. I mean, in a way, I think at that time, the land to the tiller, the only state which is complete reformed in agriculture was Kashmir. Is Kashmir even today? Even West Bengal is nowhere near it.
UP
But
is
then
not there.
you had the majority community. You had to
Yeah,
deal
but
with them.
yes, that's true. But the question is, the lands because I mean the land there were not big landlords in Kashmir because the
No,
high
you
point of
said
this was
that there were 1%, but the total
one.
community was hardly 2 or 3%. So at least
Okay.
out of 3%, 1% were good landlords. We had large chunks of land. We were left with 12 and a half acres. Likewise,
So
many
these things
others.
happen. And what
But
about the
then,
other aspects of Naya Kashmir document? They were thrown into the dustbin. There were many other things which were being framed in the Naya Kashmir document, probably,
well,
which
Jugalji, now through you, I want you to build a Naya Kashmir document afresh.
okay,
Now is the time. I can
we can
assure
build
you
that.
that.
We can
This
do
is the
that
time
together,
when
all
we
of us.
build a Naya Kashmir document again. And then we will not
Me.
complain after 10 years that Jugalji didn't do this or didn't do that. Which we are used to complaining, that's all right. You can't
No, it's
deny
not
us.
complete. Actually, these are the questions from childhood which were not answered. That's why, because you are a personality, you was connected with DP there, you are a son. That's why I asked you these questions. These are the normal questions, normal curiosities in our minds because we read literature, we go through these things. So I wanted to understand what it is all about. What is all
Basically,
about.
Jugalji, you sometime ago said about your youngster that he's not interested in what leadership there was, or he's not interested who was there or what land reforms were. He is interested in his tomorrow and he's interested in his root.
Root and
Now,
tomorrow. Yes.
if you give him those roots, today, for example, there is a big law which has come in, which is if you've done any distress sales, which a lot of
Yeah,
us
that
have
is
done. There's no doubt.
that can be that's a different
But,
thing. That's a different thing.
the question
That's
is that
entirely
there
a
are things
different
which are
situation.
happening, but basically, what we need to do, Jugalji, not we, you need to do, is to create a Naya Kashmir again. And that is my wish to you on this.
Thank you.
And
Let us see.
you've done a great job in starting this channel. I must tell you that. I wouldn't have come but for uh, the really contribution that you're doing. Great contribution. I'm very, very happy and I'm very pleased that
I'm
you have
very grateful.
associated me with this. It's very, very
It's a,
kind of you because you're
it's a great
doing
pleasure.
such a great job and you need to, I mean, again, as I said, whoever you interview from who's not in Kashmir, please tell him to first visit Kashmir and then come back to you. I see a lot of TV debates where people have not been to Kashmir and they're talking about Kashmir. I
No,
feel
no, that's
pained.
we do, rationality has to be there. I don't allow irrationality in my debate. I have always seen to it that we see actual what is reality,
Jugalji, when
and
did
that
you last visit Kashmir?
me, I was last year. It was there. I was last year. I was there.
Okay. Did you feel threatened?
No, not in. I mean, in friend circle, we are never. We have good friends there. They don't. We don't feel threatened. That's not the thing. But then people, overall political situation is in trouble. I mean, everybody is in trouble. I don't mean only we are in trouble. They are
No,
also in
that,
trouble.
that's beside the point. Question is that when I went back
Yeah.
in 1992, uh, we were there for 5 weeks. Me, my mother, my wife. For 5 weeks, we did not make even our breakfast. Nobody came to see us. We couldn't go to see anybody. 92 was very bad. And they would say to us, please don't come. We leave a tiffin at the gate, which we used to collect. And then after that, we did slowly start digging our heels. Now, when I reached home, the telephone started ringing. And I asked my person, I said, have you told anybody that we are coming? I told you not to tell it. He said, no, no, no. I just went to the butcher and asked for 2 kilos of mutton. He said, Sahab aa rahe hain?" He said, no. He said, you have not taken 2 kilos for 2 years. What do you need 2 kilos for? But
Hmm.
then that spread. And the amount of warmth that we received, even today, I feel very, very
We
happy
have
about.
friends there, which were
I feel
political
humble.
situation is in different doldrums. Otherwise, people are good. At the same time, we have friends there. They are. We have the common ancestry, common past. Everything is common. And I brought recently. I brought Shabir Saab, who was the son of this Santosh, Ghulam Rasul Santosh. His
Mhm.
contribution on the Sharika Parvat and the paintings and all that, that's immense. Yeah, I mean, just few, I mean, few Sundays back, I had brought this man, uh, this painter, Kashmiri, one of the famous Kashmiri painter. He also,
Hussain,
Hussain Saab.
Masood,
And
Masood.
he was also, I mean, it is not that, I mean, we understand, they also understand, but now the situation, what is in front of us, that also cannot be ignored. Anyway, it was a beautiful topic on DP Saab, and I think DP Saab is a very fascinating personality. I want that somebody should at least write a biography on DP Saab. Do we have
No,
a
my,
biography on DP Saab? Huh?
no, no, we don't. We don't. No.
At
I
least
think
somebody should come forward.
my contribution to his memory is the school that we have built,
Okay.
and that is something that we, the family, really is happy about. And the school has been
That's
received very well. So I think it's probably the best school in the state today. But apart from that, that's the contribution that the family has done to keep his name alive. And I'm sure somebody will write the biography. But Jugalji, I'll come to your show only when you start Naya Kashmir.
okay. I'll just see. I don't know.
That
we'll
is
have a
your
we'll have a conversation regarding it, and
no
then
conversation.
only I'm not a political. I don't have the political bones.
There's
I'm a
politics
man from
about it.
literature.
There's not
Yeah.
if you've been there last year, you would be able to describe Naya Kashmir better than I would.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I mean, we are not. I mean, dumb-headed and black curtain. We understand what are the changes, how changes are happening, what things are going on, how things are going on. Anyway, I mean, this is DP Saab show.
Thank you so
Let's
much,
conclude.
Vijay. I'm so
eh?
grateful, and I'm so grateful to everybody who's
I'm
listening to
thankful
this.
that you came. We are
Namaskar.
very much honored. We are very
Thank you.
much honored. We have loved your conversation. I mean, this was very informal. You came, it was your magnanimity. Today, we could see many, many facets of DP Saab, many, many anecdotes of DP Saab. So that was so great of you. It was a pleasure talking to you. We had, I think, the whole, and it was an enriching, informative session, a great session. Once
Thank you
again,
so
I'm
much.
really grateful to you. Thanks a lot
Thank
that
you
you
so much.
came. Best
Thank you.
wishes for your life, good health,
Thank
and best
you.
wishes.
And
Thanks a
namaskar
lot.
to everybody who's listening also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that was Vijay, the son of illustrious diplomat, politician, strategic thinker, Durga Prasad Dhar, one of the great sons of the soil, one of the great native from Kashmir, who contributed so much for the development of this country. And we are very thrilled and we are very excited and enriched by this informal conversation with Vijay Saab. And I think you must have all enjoyed it well. So that was great. That was all for today. See you next Sunday with another interesting anecdote on our civilization, Kashmir, the cradle of Indian civilization. Thank you very much. And till then, goodbye. Best of luck.